2 feet away from me, and she jumped up and said, well, I was mugged by a black man, and he mugged me because I was white. You know, and I looked at this woman, you know, that was a candid question. You know, the poor dude was probably on drugs. He mugged his grandmama and mama before he even thought about her. But here she was. And it went on, and it was quite clear that they did not want to seriously deal with the topic. So if you saw me, I was tight. And during the break, I had to tell them, I said, all 3 of us know martial arts and don't make a move because you may get hurt. Because they had these rabid racists there, and they planned it. And then I realized he controlled the show in such a way that he made a statement that we would make. He said we made, which was really something that they discerned that we said. That Jeffries says all whites are racist. So then I'm willing to deal with that, so I deal with it. And I make a statement. Then he'd ask some stupid white person to respond. And then he would leave that answer, hang up the air, and said, "What? Hold it, we're going to a commercial." And then we never got back to respond. And then he did that same thing over and over again. So Geraldo is a dog, a bastard. And we need to understand that. But the excitement still, in spite of the difficulty, we still made a strong effort. And what you don't understand is the psychological impact of seeing black men, 3 strong black men, diverse and different, but dealing with the same issue, was a devastating thing across the TV. People have stopped me in the subway, on the street. People I thought were dope fiends stopped me. They said, well, brother, you did a good job. I said, what are you talking about? You got your degree overseas. What is he talking about? And then he remembers on the Geraldo show when I talked about the European experience. In other words, the show was a devastating blow to this whole concept of the Step and Fletcher, new Step and Fletcher we got, the Eddie Murphys and all the rest of that. And one thing I should clarify to this audience is that Dick Gregory was not there to counteract that. Unfortunately, many people thought that. Dick Gregory and a young man that you may have missed here, a lawyer, Mickey County, a paraplegic. When Dick asked me to take his children to Africa in 1970, when I was at San Jose State, his oldest children were 8 and 11. They got to Africa before him. A paraplegic in a wheelchair went. He said it changed his life. His daughter, everybody is now involved in Africa. He met his wife in Africa. And when Dick saw he was being taken to another show, when he saw us come in and saw me, he immediately said, wow, you know, we're like brothers. So we were hugging and whatnot. He wanted to tell me that his daughter, the one I took to Africa, in 2 weeks is graduating from the London School of Economics with a PhD. And so the brother was very proud just to relate that information. So he stayed on just to see the show, and he sat in the front. And then he became involved, or Geraldo involved in it. But Dick wanted to say that TV is entertainment. And the fact that we could get some serious messages across, in spite of all of that mess that TV is, was monumental. But after it, he said, we have to get together to help get these things published. Now, Dick has a financial capacity to help us publish. So it's important for us to keep him bonded with us. And so I've got to correct some things that may have been done when people sent him letters or sent ABC letters and said, why do you have that clown Dick Gregory in there messing with those brothers that were trying to deal seriously? So that's a family thing that I have to straighten out. But the situation was important for us to at least make a statement. I see that now. And to have that symbolic representation. But we did not and could not do what we wanted to do. They wanted to have another show. But because we got our message across, even in spite of the obstacles, they have not only fired the white boy who was the producer of the previous show, they have not invited us back to do another show because LeBron Craig and others wanted to insist that it deal with melanin around the African scientists. So we've got a way to go. We've got to struggle. We have to struggle every way and every day.
And addendum to that too is that while they were still there in the studio, they were supposed to tape a second show at that city. But Geraldo's wife mysteriously became ill and he had to leave to tend to his wife. So it never happened. Information is very powerful. Television is one of the most powerful mediums on the face of this planet. So we have to understand what we're talking about. And we also have to understand the significance of for the people of WHMM, of subscribing to WHMM, and holding them accountable to what they air on the airwaves.
Yeah, I wanted to add one little piece to history of the event. That show came about because of the efforts of the people in Los Angeles, led by LeGrand Clegg, an attorney out there. And they do this as Dr. J says, the Black Media Watch, and they've had different names that they've organized under. They've been very effective in monitoring Hollywood and television and organizing boycotts. And what they did, they wrote letters, I guess LeGrand wrote to Geraldo, and he was getting nowhere until they threatened a nationwide boycott of the sponsors of the Geraldo show. And it was at that point that he came back and then literally went begging for the names of people who could appear on that show. So I just want to add the part that it was through the coercion of people who had done their homework and who were prepared to mobilize a large segment of the population. The pressure was brought to bear even on this show, and there are other shows that can be dealt with, because they had let this guy just talk freely, a Canadian psychologist who is repeating the same old venom of Arthur Jensen about black genetic inferiority, and he was not interrupted. He had all the time he had to do that. So this is why LeGrand said, well, if you're going to do that, then we're going to do melanin. And that's when they organized the tactic that resulted in the program.
Yeah, I just had a quick second question, Dr. Hilliard. Dr. Hilliard, I was quite impressed. It still holds in my mind the piece you do about the psychodynamics of oppression and those long list of tapes that you do. You talk about that. That really kind of like hit home to me. Could you do a few words on that, please?
You know, a lot of people don't know that racism has been studied systematically. Even though it doesn't appear in many psychology textbooks, there are psychological studies on racism. Plus, literary people have studied racism systematically. I think some of the best psychologists in the world are your novelists and your poets who have looked at it. And there are books like Frantz Fanon's Black Skins, White Math, Wretched the Earth, that deal with some of these problems. The fellow who followed, and some people say copied Fanon, Mimi, Albert Mimi, his book, The Colonizer and the Colonized, which deals with these psychological phenomena produced by oppression. Then there was From Death Camp to Existentialism, that looked at the personality transformation that the Jews encountered as they were being put through this degradation and so forth, so that the little list of features that I came up with is really the product of that kind of work. Also, Chester Pierce, by the way, he really needs to be mentioned. He's at Harvard University. He does a lot on microaggressions, mini aggressions, and I'm trying to think, in the Handbook of Psychiatry, he has a book on his studies of racism. So essentially all I said was that the Black Lady, Pride Cobb, and Bill Greer, that there are tactics that produce certain kind of behaviors, and the tactics are calculated. The tactics of domination are the suppression of memory, the systematic suppression of group memory, the systematic oppression or the prevention systematically of having a group practice its culture, the systematic denial of group identity. In fact, in the United Nations, they call that genocide. You know, you're supposed to have, everybody has a right to a name and a nationality. That's what the United Nations Genocide Convention says. So if you're denied access to your name and your identity, that's genocidal. You don't have to just kill somebody to do it. Just kill their name and their identity. The systematic teaching of white supremacy is a tactic. The systematic control over the socialization process by outsiders is a tactic, and segregation is a tactic, and the prevention of the accumulation of wealth in the group is a tactic. All of those are tactics of oppression which produce psychological reactions in both the oppressor and the oppressed, which come down to denial of reality. That's what oppressed people will do. They'll deny the real, the perceptual distortion.